Hello and welcome to another Lessons from a Lawyer, Life Lessons from a Lawyer. My name is Peter Hastings, lawyer, educationalist, and administrator. And I want to talk to you now about a favorite subject for lawyers, which is the question of evidence. And I can start with a little story from English history from what for us was the First World War. And our armies were stuck in trenches, not going very far. And the message came back one day to the generals at the back, and the message was, "Send reinforcements. We're going to advance." But the message had to be taken back by runners, and the runner would run a mile or so and then pass it to someone else, and it was passed back. There were no radios in those days, no phones, so it had to go back 20 or 30 kilometers, and it went back slowly, but by many people. And by the time the message reached the base, the message was not send reinforcements, we're going to advance. Their message was send reinforcements, we're going to a dance. And the reason, which is soppy, and the reason why that message didn't get to the other end correctly is because human beings are the worst sort of evidence. One person telling somebody else something is almost bound to go wrong. And a message that's gone through 5 people is almost bound to be wrong by the time it reaches the 5th person. Not because anyone's lying, but because people will always put a word out wrong. Maybe they misheard it. Maybe they mispronounced it. Maybe they didn't understand the word. Maybe the other person didn't quite hear it right. Or maybe they had their own different view of what that word meant. Maybe it was a different accent or a different locality, their own life experience. So if you go through more than 2 people, you're bound to get the wrong result. And I had to go to court once with a member of my family who was the other witness because we'd both witnessed a crime. And I was amazed that when we got to the court, the other member of my family went before I did. And as far as I was concerned, they got the whole thing completely wrong, even though they had been standing next to me because they had got the story back to front in the wrong order. And I felt I had got it dead right. But what this shows you is what judges will always tell you is that the word of the eyewitness is the worst evidence. It's the worst evidence because humans are vulnerable and they're fallible and they're very bad at giving evidence, remembering things correctly and recalling them correctly. Judges love bits of paper. They love documents because they can't lie unless they're forged. But people get in a muddle and people misremember things. So this shows you the danger of what we call in law hearsay. This is why you can't come to court and say, "Oh, I know this happened because Fred told me. The guy in the pub told me. I met a man on the bus. He told me." You can't say that in court. It's not allowed because that is hearsay. And because judges know that it's bad enough having one person remember something without saying, "I remember what he told me, and he said that his friend had told him, so it must be true." All rubbish. And it's useful in personal relationships, I think, to remember that because very often we rely on, what did you hear down the shops? What did you hear when you were walking down the street? Your friend at the school told you this. Very, very unreliable. And if you really want to know, go and ask the person who you think you know about. Ask them what they think. And then you might get closer to having the correct evidence. When you've got some evidence, then you can make a decision. Thanks very much. See you next time.